Hey. What else can you say? What other you know expression can you give after a game like that last night? Boy, that was another chapter written in this book of the Philadelphia Eagles in franchise history. 16-15, Eagles win. Eagles win. I am sorry I didn't make a video last night. I felt really remiss about it after seeing all of the reaction videos that all these other fans put up during the last moments of the game last night, where former Eagle Cody Parkey misses a field goal, the double doink. Another name that we get for a game, right? Um, yeah, so we all know what happened at this point, obviously. And I thought about filming at one point. I just, when I'm watching these games, I'm so in tune to the game. I'm just so happy. I am so happy that I filmed myself during the Super Bowl at the end last year, during the drive where Ertz scored the touchdown, and from that point on, to get that reaction. Because it's something I'll always cherish. I'll always be able to treasure that. It's here, it's up there, it's on YouTube, and it was a special moment as we all know. And I'm glad at least I got that. But some of these other games, I'm looking back, I'm like, yeah, I should have probably filmed that. But I'm just so into the game. I'm so just here at the edge of my seat, watching this game, watching what these games unfold. And how that happened last night. I mean, you talk about the range of emotions, from being excited when Foles is driving them down the field and they're scoring to get the go-ahead touchdown with just under a minute to go in regulation, and then the kickoff, the return by Cohen, and that kind of set things up, and then Trubisky makes the throw, and they're getting in the field goal range, although, 43, so it's not like a chip shot. I know the other field goals that Parkey had were more kind of chip shot variety during the game, but, the whole thing, and then Doug ices him, and, and then you're sitting there, you're going, yeah, he kind of made that one kind of easy. Maybe he kind of, he gave up his good kick right there. Here here it comes. Oh. And you know what? Shame on NBC, because I couldn't tell what happened. I knew that it hit the goalpost, but they didn't exactly the way the camera was. It didn't really hit until the announcers, and then I realized what happened. I'm like, oh. Once an Eagle, always an Eagle, Cody. um. Yes, Bartman now has company as most hated man in Chicago sports history. So, listen, you cannot script this stuff. I told my buddy last night on the phone. I said, you an Oscar winning Hollywood screenwriter could not have come up with this over what the Eagles have done the last 2 years. You just couldn't make this stuff up. Now we go into an opportunity this year where we get in, thanks in part to the Bears winning that game. We play the Bears, and the Eagles win a game because a guy whose last name is Hester, who, if you remember Chicago Bears history, there was a pretty good player with the last name Hester playing there years ago, Devin Hester. But of course, what was it? Trevon Hester, I believe, is his name. Gets his fingertip on the ball, and former Eagle Cody Parkey misses a field goal on the double doink. And how many times? It's like 9 out of 10 times the way that ball fell off the upright and into the goalpost, the way it bounced. 9 times out of 10 it goes in. This time it goes out. You could not make this stuff up. It's impossible. Impossible. But I'll tell you what, some year this is going to make the greatest 30 for 30 ever made on ESPN. Because the storylines with Foles and Wentz, and the team was left for dead, and here they come again, and off of course last season, everything that happened. Here we are again. We're in the Final Four for the NFC yet again. This year, different circumstances, obviously, than a year ago. But what I say last week in the video, the moment's never going to be too big for this team. I don't care where they play. I don't care who their opponent is. When you can win a Super Bowl against the Patriots, the moment is never going to be too big for you going forward, because this team knows what it takes to win. And they will win different ways. If you want to win, if you want to play a defensive battle, this team knows how to win those games. You talk about Atlanta last year, the divisional round. You talk about now the Bears on the road in the wild card round. They know how to blow out a team, as we saw in the NFC title game against the Vikings last year. And they know how to win a shootout type of game like it was against the Patriots in the Super Bowl last year. They've won games all sorts of ways, and people can talk about the Parkey miss all they want. The fact of the matter is the Eagles are down 5 on the road against the number 1 ranked defense in the league, and Foles gets down the field, and on 4th and goal, after talking it over with Doug, they run a similar play that Foles ran in his rookie season to win his first ever game, I believe, if I remember correct, at Tampa Bay. It's pretty much the same play that he hit. Who was it at the time? Was it, I believe it was Jeremy Maclin for the game-winning touchdown at Tampa. That was Nick Foles doing that, and he did it again. A little bigger stage this time, a playoff game on the road. But a similar play that they ran his rookie year under Andy Reid, of course, at that time, to beat the Bucs. And I believe that was his first start of his career, and he won that game at Tampa. Listen, again, you cannot make this stuff up. Nick Foles again. Saint Nick does it again. That's 2 straight years now for those of you counting at home, that Nick Foles has beaten the number 1 ranked defense in the playoffs. The Vikings last year at home, of course. The Bears this year on the road. 2 straight years. The man is now 4-1 all-time in the playoffs, and the one loss, I know it was against the Saints, and ironically enough, now we're playing the Saints again, but the one loss came when he left the field with the lead. And as we know, the Sproles horse collar call on the return, Saints go down the field and eventually get the game-winning, field goal with Shane Graham at the Link those years ago. So his is his only loss in the playoffs. And he left the field with the lead, as he did last night, and it almost happened again, although this time, of course, Hester with the fingertip on the ball, the double doink, the Eagles win 16-15, move on to New Orleans. Amazing. But like I said before, the moment's not going to be too big. I don't care if this team is playing in Chicago, if this team is going to New Orleans, if they're going to L.A., if they're going to Dallas. Oh, boy, would that be something. Oh, my goodness. But we'll get into that down the road, okay? We got New Orleans this week. So the moment's not going to be too big. It's not going to be too big for them. I know they're playing at the Dome. It's a very difficult place to win. The Saints haven't lost a home playoff game there since after Katrina. They play great. They have played great in that stadium for a number of years, particularly in the playoffs. They have used their crowd to their advantage. Obviously, it's a high-powered offense. It's a very good team. They are absolutely well-deserving of that number 1 seed. They crushed us. The Eagles' worst loss this year was at New Orleans. But I will say this. That was a different Eagles team. That was an Eagles team that wasn't playing with confidence on both sides of the ball. They turned the ball over too much. I believe they had, 4 turnovers in the game, 4 or 5 or whatever it was. Defensively, they just couldn't handle the Saints. They were not playing with confidence. They were not playing with the poise that we know this team is capable of playing with, and now they are. They got the mojo back, and they're doing it on both sides of the ball. And where you have to win the battles up front, the Eagles are winning the battles, including last night. Great job and look, the unheralded heroes of last night's game was the offensive line. This Bears defense is ferocious. Ferocious pass rushing defense. We all know about Khalil Mack. Look, Sharif Floyd, Hicks, they have a lot of big boys up front that wreck havoc, and they didn't do it last night. The Eagles didn't run the ball very well. They didn't, the Bears were able to control the run game, but they did not get sustained pressure on Nick Foles, and all the credit in the world goes to the big boys up front for protecting number 9. Because look, you can have the greatest, you can have Tom Brady, right, the GOAT. If you're not protecting him up front, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter in the playoffs. It's not going to matter in regular season. You have to win up front, and this offensive line has done that. And this is one of the big reasons why they are on the winning streak that they're on right now. They're playing their best football at the time where you have to play your best football. Look, make no mistake. This team has been playing playoff football for the past month because you had to win those games just to get into the playoffs. Yeah, they got a little help from the Bears, but you still had to win those other games in L.A., at home against Houston, came from behind late in the fourth quarter to win that game. And then, of course, the Redskins game, which was a little bit of a layup, but still, you had to win those other games against some tough defenses, against some tough competition to get into the playoffs. And they did. And the Bears had a hand in that, and then their prize for that was playing the Eagles and losing to the Eagles. But you had to do what you had to do to make it into the playoffs, and part of the big reason why they did is because they got back to playing the dominant football that we saw this team play a year ago on both sides of the ball. The O-line, the D-line, both playing their best football at the right time of year. This is where you have to put it all together, okay? And those months ago when they lost to the Saints in New Orleans, they weren't putting it together. It was a different team. So the Eagles team that Saints fans might remember from those months ago that the Saints pretty much wiped the dome with, 48-7 or whatever the score was, that's not the same Eagles team that you're going to be seeing on Sunday. Okay, now you're seeing a team that's playing with that fire. Now you're going to see a team that's playing with that confidence, with that swagger, with that mojo. I mean, call it what you want, but this is the team that won the Super Bowl last year. And it's like I said before, the great line from Rudy T, don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion. Because to beat a champion, you got to knock that champion out. And the Bears couldn't do it last night. And if the Eagles are playing the way that they're capable of playing, the way we know that they've played this past month, and plus, I see no reason why they couldn't go into New Orleans and win this game. Because they're playing their best football when you have to play it. Right now in the playoffs, that stretch to get in, and now in the playoffs. Look, that's a very good Bears team that they beat last night. I know there's some inexperience on that team. They didn't look it yesterday. Trubisky had a pretty good game. Was he perfect? No. But he had a pretty good game. He made some big throws when he had to make them. Yeah, Cody Parkey missed a field goal, but you know what? Them's the breaks sometimes. Them's the breaks. It's happened to the Eagles. We've lost some tough games in the playoffs, too, over the years. Okay, which is what made last season all the more sweeter for this fan base. But this is where you have to play your best football, and that's what this team is doing. Yes, they have confidence, and look, they deserve to have confidence. You're a defending champion, and it's hard to defend that title. I mean, you saw the thing last night with those footballs of the teams that were able to repeat as champion. There's not a whole lot of them. And there's been some really good teams in this league that haven't been able to repeat as champions. The Saints couldn't do it. The year after they won a Super Bowl, what happened? Beastquake. They lose in Seattle to a 7-9 Seahawks team. Okay? So the Patriots don't win every year. I mean, the Niners didn't win every year back in the 80s. The Steelers didn't win every year, back in the Steel Curtain days. There's been some all-time great teams that weren't able to repeat, and there have been some that have. But then you look at the history, it just doesn't always happen. It's hard to do it. There's a reason for that. It's a grind. It's a war. Every game in the playoffs, whether you're at home or on the road, it's a war. And if you're not playing at the best the way you should be playing, you're going to lose 9 out of 10 times. And there's people that say, well, the Eagles, now they're playing the number one seed on the road. Well, I mean, I'm sorry. Number one seeds never lose at home, in the divisional round. I seem to remember the Giants won 2 Super Bowls, in the last 15 years by beating a number one seed on the road. The Packers have done it. Teams have done it. The difference between them and this team, though, is this team's a defending champion. It's a little different. They know what it takes to win that crown. They know how hard it is and the sacrifices that are made and the preparation going into each week that you have to do. The adjustments that you have to make. And I know the running game wasn't working last night, but I'm glad they kept with it. You know why? Because it kept that great defense on its toes. If you just went out last night and the first, few drives that the run was getting stuffed as it was, and you just get away from it, and we're just going to be pass, 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 that makes you easy to defend. It makes and it also leads to more turnovers as possibilities. Now, look, the Eagles can't do what they did last night against the Saints. It's very rare for a team to lose the turnover battle and still come away with a win on the road in the playoffs. It's hard to do it. The Eagles did it. I mean, they lost a turnover battle 2-0. And I will say this, some of those picks that should have been made for the Eagles, you better come away with those against Drew Brees. Because you want to keep that high-powered offense off the field, as much as you can. It is absolute paramount that you do that. And how do you do that? You do that two ways. On offense, you have to control the clock. Long time-consuming drives. On defense, and I know Drew Brees isn't a great giver, but if he puts the ball in an opportunity where your defense comes away with it, you got to come away with it. They had a couple drops. They lost opportunities last night to come away with turnovers. And against Drew Brees, you got to do that. Against that offense in their dome, if they're going to give you an opportunity at a turnover, whether it's a fumble, whether it's an interception, whether it's a special teams turnover, you got to get it. You got to get it. So those are basic keys of victory against a high-powered offense. Now, do I believe that the Eagles can win a shootout type of game? Yeah. I've seen them do it in the Super Bowl last year. Nick Foles was a Super Bowl MVP. This is going to be a great matchup. Look, you got two coaches that have won a Super Bowl title. You got two quarterbacks that have been Super Bowl MVPs. Nick Foles idolized Drew Brees. That's why he wears number 9. He's 0-1 against him in the playoffs, but that was his guy. They both went to the same high school in Texas. They both won on the biggest stage against two, future Hall of Fame quarterbacks they went up against. Drew Brees against Peyton Manning and Nick Foles against Tom Brady. I mean, the similarities are there. And they have both done great things for a city. Drew Brees, obviously, what he's done for New Orleans has been tremendous. And Nick Foles, for what he's done, and in a lesser, role, he hasn't been with the Eagles as long as Drew Brees has been with the Saints. But, I mean, the gift he gave us last year, winning that Super Bowl, will never be forgotten. And what he's done since this season, the ride that this team has been on. Look, all he's done as an Eagles quarterback is win. He has a great winning percentage. He has a lot of Eagles records. Most touchdowns in a game, which ties an NFL record with 7. Highest completion percentage, which he did last week of the season against the Redskins, beating his own record. Most completions in a row. I mean, and again, this video isn't about Foles versus Wentz, but what Nick Foles has done in a small sample size has been tremendous. Obviously, his playoff record right now, 4-1, 1-0 on the road. Now in the playoffs, he won his first road playoff game, and the Eagles won their first road playoff game since 2008, I believe it was when they last playoff win I believe they had on the road is when they beat the Giants in the divisional round, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, before losing at Arizona in the NFC title game. Again, the script is there for Nick Foles. He's probably going to be an Eagles Hall of Famer someday. With the other former Eagles that have had that honor. He'll always be remembered. I would not even be shocked if they retire his number. Again, you win a Super Bowl MVP, you're the first Super Bowl MVP in Eagles history, and you had a huge part of why this team won and the success that they've had going again. I mean, hey, I could see it happen someday. And you know what? He deserves all the praise that he's gotten. He has made the most of his opportunities. And all the man's done is win. That's all he's done is win. And as a fan, that's all I want to see out of my quarterback. That's all I want to see out of my team. So you know what? You take what you get last night, a tough defensive battle, old school. You knew it going in. You knew that, these two defenses are playing at a high level right now. You knew it was going to be a defensive battle, low-scoring game, and that's what it was. Eagles made some mistakes. Can't make those mistakes against the Saints. Both of those turnovers came when they had decent drives going. And again, against the Saints, you got to score as many points as you can because it's probably going to be a shootout type of game. You're probably going to see like an opposite type of game as it was this past week against Chicago. I do like the way this defense is playing right now, though. I really do. These guys are playing at a high level. They're confident. They're getting after the quarterback. They're making plays. Should have had some turnovers yesterday, but some of those turnovers were there because the pressure was getting to Trubisky. And you got to get pressure on Breeze, and he does get rid of the ball real quick. He's one of the quickest, releasing that ball, but you still can get pressure on him, and you got to get pressure on him. Make him make mistakes. It's tough. He's a future Hall of Famer. Has a lot of records. Has a Super Bowl MVP to his name. And he's well deserved all the accolades he's gotten in his career. He's going to go down as one of the all-time greats. But you know what? We have a pretty good one ourselves. St. Nick. And he does it again last night against a great defense on the road when they're down 5. Drives down the field and on 4th down to Golden Tate. Golden Tate, hey! there he is. You can't script this stuff. I really like the way this team is playing. They're playing with that competitive fire. And for part of the season, and you can call it the Super Bowl hangover or whatnot. I mean, it is what it is. But I love the way this team is playing right now. They're playing at the level that we saw them play a year ago when they were able to win a Super Bowl championship against the defending champion Patriots, when they won in the playoffs against the defending NFC champion Falcons, and then they beat the number one defense in the league, and whatever, the Minneapolis Miracle, that's why they got there. Well, whatever, they got there, and they were still the number one ranked defense in the league when the Eagles picked them apart, where St. Nick picked them apart in that playoff game. So, yeah, I mean, they have earned where they are. They earned where they were last season. They were the number one seed. They earned where they are this season. You can say they snuck in, but they still snuck in. And they won a game on the road against a very good opponent in the Bears last night. And now they go up against Drew Brees and the Saints, in a very difficult place to win in the Dome. But I might remind Saints fans, the last time the Saints lost the playoff game there was against the Eagles. And the Eagles were wearing these colors back in 1993. Unfortunately, that was the only Eagles playoff win with Randall and with Reggie, and it was, unfortunately, Reggie White's last win with the Eagles, because, of course, then they lost to Dallas the next week in Dallas, and then that was, Reggie went on his way as a free agent to Green Bay after that, and that team started disbanding. But that was the last time the Saints lost at home in a playoff game, was against the Eagles. First year I was an Eagles, really started following, the Eagles. So, there's memories there. And obviously the last time we played there in the playoff game, it was a loss. That was the Jeff Garcia year, with Sheldon Brown, had one of the all-time great hits in a playoff game against Reggie Bush. And, the Eagles lost that game. Andy shouldn't have punted there late in the fourth quarter. He shouldn't have done that. I don't think Doug would do it. So, yeah, I mean, there's been history there with these two teams in the playoffs. Obviously, the Saints won here. The last time we played the Saints in the playoffs. Of course, the last time, like I said, we played in the Dome was a loss. Last time, so we've lost to them 2 straight times in the playoffs. Now we're due. We're due to beat them again. It won't be easy. I don't expect it to be. You're in the playoffs right now. There's no layups. You're not playing teams with 1 win or no win so far. You're playing good opponents. You get to the Final Four in your conference, you're going to be seeing good teams. And we already saw one last night against Chicago. And now you're going up against another beast, in the Saints. And if you win that game, you're either going to go to L.A. against the Rams or you're going to go to Dallas. Oh, boy, if it's Dallas. Oh, boy, we owe them too. I will say this, and I'm not going to talk about an NFC title game. We still have to play the Saints, obviously, in divisional round. But I will say this to those local Dallas fans. If somehow, some way, Dallas wins their game at I almost said St. Louis, at L.A., and we win our game against the Saints, and we go to Dallas in the Jerry World in the NFC, which the only time the two teams ever played in a conference championship game was 1980, and the Eagles won at the Vet in these colors. But if the Eagles do go to Dallas in the NFC title game and win and go back to the Super Bowl, All the local Dallas fans in this area, oh, they better move. They better get away. They do not want to deal with us after that. Of course, we won't really know who they are because they won't be wearing their star gear, after a loss. We only see them when they win. When they lose, they kind of disappear. It is what it is. We'll see them this week. If they lose to the Rams, we won't see them. And I guarantee you, if they beat the Rams and we beat the Saints and they lose to us in the NFC title, we won't be seeing them until after training camp next year. They will not show up at all. They'll masquerade as a fan of another team until next season. They'll find like Patriots gear or something just to put it. Well, there's a star involved in that too, so that they'll wear that for like a year, and then they're off season and they'll hide. Oh, it would be their nightmare. Wouldn't that just be like the Eagles winning last year was enough. That they beat the Dallas in the NFC title game. Oh boy, it would be the greatest thing for me though. I mean, not as big as the Super Bowl, but it would be one of the greatest things that I've ever seen if that does happen. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Obviously, big game coming up on Sunday. Same time slot too. Sunday, 4:40 start. This time on Fox. We get Buck and Aikman. But same time slot. Another week, same time, different opponent, different stadium. Of course, the Superdome. And yeah, it is going to be. It's going to be interesting. I'm again. Look, I told my fellow Eagle fans this last night on the phone. I said, boy, this team, I don't know how many more of these I can take. But as long as it's a win, I don't care. Any type of way you win, you win. I've always said, I don't care. You win by a point. You win a blowout. You win a game like the Super Bowl last year. It doesn't matter to me, just as long as it's a win. I can deal with it. My heart, just pounds afterwards. But I can deal with it as long as it's a win. And it was a great win last night. Another chapter was written, like I said, 16-15, the double Doink game in Chicago. They keep making up for that fog. Which, by the way, for those of you counting at home, that's the only time the Eagles ever lost to the Bears in the playoffs was the Fog Bowl. So it took an act of nature for the Eagles to actually lose a game to Chicago in the playoffs. But, it is what it is. It's history. It happened. But so did last night. And you know what? To the Bears fans out there, keep your heads up. You have a very good squad. I would not be shocked if these two teams meet again in the playoffs, in the very near future. Because I think the Bears have a bright future. They have a good young coach there. They have a good, young quarterback. They have some players, and it's a good team. It's a very good team, and I don't think we saw the last of each other in the playoffs. So, it might even become a little bit of a rivalry. We'll see. The Eagles Saints are starting to get something going, so, we'll see. Again, great game. Look, hell of a game. It was a battle. It was a heavyweight battle on defense. There were some big blows thrown, but it was an old fashioned, old school type of game, and I'm just glad the Eagles came out on top. I'll take it. Now we go to New Orleans, take on the Saints. We do owe them, and the Eagles remember. The Eagles remember. Not only do they remember the 48-7 game, but they remember the Saints chirping about, what would have happened last year if the Minneapolis Miracle didn't happen. So, they've stored all this away. So I would not be shocked to see a couple, pretty good licks put on the Saints this week. Legal ones. Let's not get, the penalty kinds, but let's, they haven't forgotten. They haven't forgotten. So Saints can talk it, and they have a right to. They blew us out. Earlier in the year. But again, like I said, that was a different Eagles team. This is a different Eagles team coming to the Dome on Sunday. So, hey, let's strap on. Let's get ready. Get your chin strap ready. This is going to be this is going to be a great game. I really expect to see a very good competitive game. Won't be a 48-7 game this time around. I think the Eagles have a shot. I really do. And I say that because of how well they're playing right now on both sides of the ball and what they're doing at the line of at the point of attack in the trenches. How well their O-line is playing, how well their D-line is playing. It's big. Because this is where you have to play big on both sides of the ball. It's what helped them win a Super Bowl last year, and they're doing it again at the right time. So as always, let's go Birds! Big win last night, 16-15. Thank you, Cody Parkey. Thank you to Hester for getting your fingertip on the ball. Thank you to the goalposts for knocking the ball the other way instead of back into the where it would have been good. And as always, thank you to the Eagles. I mean, giving us this kind of second opportunity this year and just this ride, it's been tremendous. It really has, and it's well appreciated. I know this team is fighting for everything they're getting, and again, they have the underdog motif. That it's what I said this before. It's what's in their DNA. They play at their best when everyone counts them out. And yet again this week, everyone counts them out. Big underdog, the Saints are favored, and rightfully so. But the Saints are going to be the highest favorite team this week going in as far as the point spreads are concerned. It was like that last week in Chicago. It's going to be like that again this week in New Orleans. It might be like that again if they have to go to LA or Dallas. But I will say this team thrives on it. They thrive on this type of stuff. And they're a tough out. They're a very tough out, as Chicago found out last night. This team is playing their best when you have to play your best. And I believe in these guys. I believe in what the coaching staff has done, how the players are doing it. I believe you can't do anything as an Eagle fan but not believe. They've shown you too much over the last 2 years for us to say, oh, well, now they're going against the Saints. This team can beat anybody. And they feel they can beat anybody. And like I said before, and I don't want to, keep going on this, but the moment is not going to be too big for them. It's just not. Whether it's New Orleans, whatever, the dome, all the crazy stuff that happens there, it's the moment's not going to be too big. You can beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. The moment's not going to be too big. So, hey, one of the great playoff wins for us last night. I know it was a heartbreaker for the Bears fans, but it was a great playoff win for Eagles and the Eagles history and for us in Eagles Nation. And, we'll celebrate it. We'll enjoy it. But we're going to get ready for New Orleans. We're going to get ready for the Saints. Big opponent. A real good opponent. A team that knows how to win. So it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle. But, hey, you know what? The Eagles are going to be there. They're going to show up. They're not going to be afraid. And they're going into this game feeling they have every right in the world to win it. And that's the right attitude to have. And I think they have a shot to do it. I'm going to get my Lee's Hoagie again this week. It's the playoff tradition now. It worked well last year. I went out to Lee's Hoagies. I got my Lee's Hoagie yesterday. Enjoyed it. Going to enjoy it again on Sunday. The tradition will continue, and hopefully it will be another Birds win going back. My goodness, 2 straight years back to the NFC title game for the first time since the Reed years. It went a little better last year than it started in the Reed years, but excited. I'm excited to have another week. Looking forward to this matchup, a rematch with the Saints. And I believe it's going to go a little different this time. I do. So as always, let's go Birds, and I will see you all after the game, after the divisional playoff game against the Saints. Let's go Birds. Let's keep going. Let's keep going on the road to victory. All right, everyone, take care.